Good morning, I'm Hunter Sanders.
And this is Nash Young, and you are listening to H&N Talks. Rise and shine. You're listening to H&N Talks. H&N Talks is all about having fun with facts, because if you're not having fun, then what are you doing, bro? So basically today, we're going to be talking about our walks with Christ and why we believe in God. We will be using the Bible and secular facts to back up our claims. We will also always try to keep this podcast between 30 and 40 minutes long. By the way, check out our previous podcast about fitness. Very informative, very fun. We're going to start out this podcast with a fun fact of the day. So paper cuts hurt really bad because there are more nerve fibers called nociceptors or nociceptors per square inch in your fingertips than other areas in your body, according to wonderopolis.org. So when you ever get that gross paper cut and it just kind of barely bleeds and it hurts really bad, that's why. So we're going to start off with our testimonies and how God has impacted our lives. So Hunter, would you like to go first?
I would, but awesome. I would like to note something on paper cuts because they're really little, but like you said, if you get one in your fingertips, it stings like crazy.
It stings really bad.
And you can have like what you would think would be worse pains, and they don't hurt nearly as bad as a paper cut in your fingertips. So I think that the fact that there are more nociceptors per square inch in your fingertips, that definitely makes sense.
Yeah, because you have to feel things out, and if you're putting your fingers in some place that's not good, then it's gonna let you know. I think that makes sense. I mean, science does not lie. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's cool.
So like Nash and I said, we're going to be talking about religion today.
Yes.
And
Christianity, preferably, not religion, but
right. So much like fitness, religion is a massive part, a bigger part than fitness of our lives. And it's basically what we see the whole world through. And neither of us, we've talked about this, we don't really like using the word religion.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like it's like a set of rules that you have to follow or a way that you have to live and you have to do these certain things. But that's not how Christianity works. Christianity sets you free.
That's absolutely right.
And from the outside, some people see it like you have to follow these rules, but that's just not the way it is at all. Oh, no.
Christianity is a totally different spectrum of religion, quote unquote. It's totally different than every other religion. It has it's basically the religion where a God actually loves us, and we aren't required to necessarily follow the rules. Like we're broken from the law because Jesus died for us, and so that's the cool part. Now we do have the 10 Commandments, and we have other little things like that not even little things, morals that we have to follow because God put those in place. But we are set free and we're forgiven when we ask for forgiveness because Jesus died for us, and so that's the cool thing about Christianity. So works don't get you to heaven.
So, right. Yeah. Okay, so I guess we'll just start off by how we became Christians.
Sure. Yeah.
How I guess just the journey getting there.
Yeah.
And so you and I are both very similar in this, and we both grew up in a Christian home.
Yeah.
My parents were both Christians. They went to the same church when they were dating. And then I've got one sister. She she's a Christian. She loves Jesus. Honestly, I don't know her testimony, but like me, she grew up in a Christian home. So anyway, I grew up in a Christian home. I kind of always went to church, sat in the back, fell asleep, drew on the program.
Typical Christian.
Whatever it may be. I wasn't too interested in it. I just went every Sunday because that is what my parents did, and that's what they wanted me to do. And so I went. And we went as a family, and if you asked me if I believed in God or if I loved Jesus, of course I did.
Yeah.
But I really didn't have an understanding of what it meant to be a Christian and what it meant to love Jesus, or I probably wasn't even familiar with the phrase walking with Jesus.
Okay.
And so in high school, I started slipping off a little bit. I stopped going to like the youth group in my church. I just went to church on Sundays. I started to think for my own a little bit and question some things. I also, let's see. I don't know. I think I was just a little more rebellious in high school.
Okay.
Like I can kind of do what I want, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think our family stopped going to church quite as often.
I think there's a correlation with how you were acting versus like not going to church?
Well, I never lost my morals at
Okay.
all. And I was always like someone would have said I was like a good kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I never got in trouble. Like I really didn't drink.
Yeah.
I didn't even like do anything bad until like I got to college.
Okay.
But so it was all good, I thought, until my freshman year of college.
Okay.
I'm in my dorm. By this time, sin had started to grow pretty heavily on me.
Okay.
I like to go out and drink. I enjoyed getting drunk. I was watching porn regularly.
Oof.
I was looking for joy in this world in all the wrong places, you could say.
Yeah.
Whether even like affirmation from others or trying to be cool. I by the grace of God, I was not having sex,
Yes.
thankfully, which is a massive thing.
It is for sure. It's big.
And so I was sitting in my dorm room one day, and I get a call from a buddy from high school
Okay.
who I keep in touch with, and he says, "Hey, Hunter, what are you doing this summer?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Dude, it's October. I don't know what I'm doing this summer. Probably just playing tennis." And he said, "Hey, you should sign up for this camp."
Ooh. Okay.
I said, "Okay.
Let's go.
Well, what camp is it?" And he explained it. It's Pine Cove Christian Camps. It's in Texas, Tyler, Texas. And I think you'd be a really good counselor there with the kids. And I thought, well, I'm a Christian, and I think I can work well with kids. But
Send it.
Yeah, I think I'll contact the guy and see what happens. And had I known what the camp was really like, there's no way I would have signed up for it, because I would have thought it was super religious, and it wasn't any fun because you couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
And I would have been against it. But thankfully, I didn't know exactly what I was getting into.
Yeah.
And so I contacted the camp, and they called me in for an interview. And so I interviewed, and my friend gave me all of the answers to the interview. The questions.
All of the answers.
All of the answers.
So for a Christian camp, he cheated basically. That how sacrilegious is that, dude?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's very sacrilegious.
Because he did the interview first, and a lot of the questions were, what is your view on abortion? What is your view on homosexuality?
And you had to, and he gave you the answers to that?
Yeah. Yeah, because I didn't know at the time.
Oh
I was
my
unfamiliar with my Bible.
Wow.
And
wow.
so he told me, he said, say this and say this and say this and say this.
Okay.
And so when they interviewed me, and he also said, and they're going to ask you a favorite Bible verse.
Okay.
And at the time, I probably didn't have more than 3 Bible verses memorized.
Really?
And so I looked up a Bible verse that was going to be my favorite one for that day.
Oh, for sure.
And so he called me, and the interview went great. But I think he could tell that I wasn't quite all the way there. And so he offered me a spot as a videographer for Pine Cove, which was perfect for me because I was not nearly ready to be a counselor. But I was in broadcasting, and I had done a lot of video stuff in the past, very familiar with editing. And so it was a perfect spot for me. Okay. So long story short, I went to Pine Cove in May. In May like 14th probably. I remember on May 17th we had this conference, and they had just jam-packed us with stuff over the first 3 days between like training and sermon type things and activities and really testing our faith. Oh, wow. And I began to realize that I wasn't really a Christian. I wasn't really who I thought I was. Yeah. And so I remember that day we did this confession thing with a partner, and I didn't really know the guy, but you feel like you know him really well because you spend so much time with him so quickly. For sure. And I remember that day I was like, starting today, I just want to give my life to Jesus. And I want to give him my everything because I realize now that he's brought me here. Yeah. And he has done so many things in my life that I've been unthankful for. And I want nothing else than to give the rest of my life to him. And so I was there for 2 weeks, and then you go home for the summer for 6 weeks because I was only working the second half of the camp. Okay. And so I go home for the summer for 6 weeks, and I'm playing tennis, and I'm just kind of doing my thing, getting back into the normal swing of things. And people back home can tell I've changed. I got so many comments like, what happened to you? Like, you seem different. Wow. Like, where's the old Hunter? And it was just because I was kind of in shock. And so I was very extreme. Like, I was kind of in shock. I didn't really want to do anything. I was probably spending like 2 hours in my Bible a day. that's pretty much just what I wanted to talk about.
It's a long time.
And then
It's not really.
And so I go back to camp in July, and about the week before, I'm playing a tennis tournament in Texas.
Okay.
And I'm playing an ITA, which is just a college tournament. All the colleges play, and I'm playing this guy from Auburn. And this guy stomps on me in the first set, 6-1. And I'm sitting on the changeover, and my mind's really heavy about God because it's just still in shock to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I pray on the changeover. First time I've ever done this. And so I just put my head in my towel and I just start praying. And I said, like, God, like, help me here. Help me. I need you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I need you. And God, if you can get me through this. And at the time it just seemed impossible that I get through because the guy just stomped me. He plays at an SEC school. I mean, there's no way I can get through this. And I said, but God, if you pull me out on the winning side of this match, I will give my entire life to you.
Jeez.
And I don't know if that's how God works or not. I don't.
For sure not. He
works in crazy ways.
Yeah.
But
testing God is not the best. But hey, sometimes he works through that for sure. But continue.
What he did do is I remember playing that second set of that tennis match. Between each and every point I was praying.
Yeah. Wow.
I said, God, just like, what do I do here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where do I go here? And I would feel like he told me. I don't know if he told me or not. And long story short, I come out on the winning side of that match. Crazy pumped.
Wow.
I remember
that's crazy.
Nothing but a smile on my face after. I remember calling my dad because I was there alone and telling him what had just happened and telling him that I prayed and told God that I'd give him my life if I win. And I won.
Wow.
So now I'm going to give God my life. So long story short, I'd say that's my testimony. I think your testimony is something that never stops. You know, I think your testimony is
keep adding to it.
Yeah, you keep adding to it, and I certainly have things to add since then. And I went back to Pine Cove the next summer and worked as a counselor after getting introduced as a videographer.
So they gave you the job this time.
They gave me the job that time.
That's cool.
But
that's really cool.
Best decision I could have ever made, hands down. And it's not all sunshine and rainbows since then.
No.
It's certainly a rocky road just like anything else. But like I said, best decision I could have made.
Oh, for sure. Dude, that's really cool. I actually didn't know like half of that, and we've talked quite a bit about our faith to each other and shared. Good job, bravo. Get a little golf clap in the mic.
Thank you.
So for me, my testimony started when I was 5. My parents have always raised me up in a Christian home, so when I was 5, I got saved. I asked my mom to help lead me. You know, that's got to be pretty funny when you're a kid. You're like, Mom, please, can I know Jesus? And then after that, I started. I mean, you're just a kid, so you don't really understand what you're doing. But I did understand. That's like one of the only days I remember when I was a kid, and it's crazy. At 5 years old, I got saved, and then
So describe to me what you remember.
So I asked my mom that day, I was like, Mom, I just want to know Jesus. And then I had this little twin bunk bed that I just got in, and like she laid in there with me, and she just like led me through the steps. And there's not really a step. I mean, in Romans 10:9 it says that if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe that God raised him from the dead, that you will be saved. So that's how you get saved. But my mom kind of just said, like, you just gotta ask God into your heart and like ask him to forgive you of your sins, blah, blah, blah. So it was kind of like that. But I don't remember super, super specific details, but I do remember that she was there with me, and it was super cool. Very, very cool experience. Like one of the only days I do remember as a adolescent child. So, but when I was 10, I got baptized, which baptism is biblically backed up. John the Baptist kind of took that on, baptizing the Son, or baptizing you in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So I got baptized, and it's just a symbol for you being saved, basically. And then this is kind of where it gets fun. So in high school, I was always the kid that didn't drink, didn't party, was a very good Christian kid, quote unquote. But I wasn't doing it for the right reasons. I was very prideful that I was a virgin also, and that I didn't drink and party, and a lot of other people are doing those things. And so I had something to live up to, that I was different. I like being different. And so that kind of played against me in college. When I went to college, I gave into a lot of pressure and started drinking and started partying and having a good time. Life was up and down for me. And I would not recommend that lifestyle to anybody because it's so inconsistent and God is so consistent.
Yes. But would you say that your faith was still there?
Yes, I still told people I was a Christian, and I would even tell people at parties. I would be like,
That's
"Yeah,
just crazy to me."
Yeah, seriously, like people just talk to me, and I would still say like, "Yeah, I'm a Christian, and I probably shouldn't be doing this, but I am anyway," because the flesh sometimes likes to take over. And I did. I just started partying and killing it, and then I had I had, I guess, an epiphany moment when one night before my sophomore year, so my freshman year, I partied all year basically. And then the crazy thing is that Hunter and me were friends, but we weren't really like tight. But then he transfers out in my second semester of freshman year, and I didn't ever think I was going to get to see him again. Well, he texted me over the summer going into sophomore year, and it's like, "Hey, where are you living?" And I was like, "Well, I have a house that I have another roommate named Caleb, and I have an extra room. You can stay if you want to." And he was like, "Sure, let's do it. Like let's collab." It's crazy how God worked that out. And so he moves in like a week before school starts, and I'm partying, and it was 2 nights before school started. I got really drunk, and I woke up the next morning.
Before Nash continues, I would like to add a couple of things. I remember texting Nash at the end of, I think it was like May, because I think I was still in school, but you weren't, something like that. And
Okay.
I wasn't sure if you were still partying or not.
Okay.
And I remember saying like, "Oh, dude, like I'm super excited. It's gonna be a fun year."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Yeah, it's gonna be crazy lit." I was like,
And you're
"Okay,
like, oh no."
I don't know what that means. Does he still party? Does he not party? I don't know."
Yeah.
And then over the summer, you bought those massive speakers.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah,
I think he's still partying.
He's definitely partying. Yeah, they were like $200 speakers, pretty big. Anyway, and so I got really drunk one night, and Hunter was in his room because he didn't want to be a part of it, which is very understandable. And I woke up the next morning. I'd thrown up probably 10 times, and I was laying on the couch. I wasn't super hungover, but I was pretty hungover. But I told Hunter, I was like, "Man, I want to change my life around. Like this life that I'm living right now, it's so inconsistent, and I just feel horrible. Like I feel super convicted." And he's like, "All right, well, let's start today." I was like, "Okay, we're gonna start today." So I stopped drinking, and we started going to FCA, which is the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and we started going to church every Sunday. And we started really living for the Lord. And my life, it's funny how this works. My life got better. It wasn't that it got easier, because life is always hard. But I had someone to go to, and I had someone to run to. And it's not a joke. Like, there's so many facts I could tell you about how God is real in a secular way, not even just from the Bible, because I know some people don't necessarily believe in the Bible. But the Bible is so powerful. It's the sword of the Spirit, and it attacks anybody and everybody, and God can completely convict you. But that's my story, and it's just crazy how God works in so many crazy ways. He's very mysterious, and he just comes in the night like a thief and takes it. Anyway, but so we're going to talk about our favorite Bible verses. I have 3 that I'm going to say, and I don't know if Hunter has 3 or not, but I do. So my first one is Matthew 17:20. So it says, "He replied, because you have so little faith. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." So that verse to me is just crazy how much faith. Like, that's what we're supposed to have, is have massive amounts of faith in God. And if you just have faith the size of a mustard seed's super small, you can move a mountain. And he's obviously not meaning that necessarily in a literal way, but it could potentially be in a literal way, because God is all powerful and he created us. My next verse is John 13:7. I'm having a hard time reading this morning. Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." And again, that's another faith-based verse. I've had trouble with faith in the past, and so you don't realize what I'm doing now, and it could be the hard times, but later you will understand. And that's so true, because there's so many instances in my life that I've had and I wasn't understanding, and then you're like, wow, I kind of understand like why you did that, God. The next one's Jeremiah 29:11, and it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future." And again, it's another faith-based verse. And it's just, God does have plans for us, and there are choices that we can make, and He knows the choices we're going to make. And so it's just really cool to I guess see God's plan work out for us. And it's not meant to harm us, it's meant to help us even when we're going through mental and physical pain. Hunter, you got a couple, or just
I can certainly give you a couple if that's what you're asking.
Sure, go ahead. Let's do it.
So I would say my favorite Bible verse, I don't know, we all go through seasons in life.
For sure.
And so I've had different seasons where different verses are my favorite.
Yeah.
But I think this one's kind of universal through all the seasons.
Okay.
And it's 1 Corinthians 10:31, and it is, "Whether I eat or drink or whatever I do it all for the glory of God." And I think it's just applicable to everything, you know.
It is.
Whatever you're doing, if you're washing the dishes, if you're playing tennis, if you're at church, if you're watching, you know, whatever you're doing, do it all for the glory of God, and do it to glorify Him, and in a glorifying way.
That's very cool.
Mm-hmm. And then the second one I'm going to give, hold your tongue at first, is Philippians 4:13, which is, "All things are possible through Christ who gives me strength." And this verse is highly overused and taken out of context a lot. And athletes use it when it may not be the one they should go to. However, it is really, really cool, because Paul wrote this in Philippians, and he's referring to salvation when he's talking about it. And he's talking about how all things are possible. Anyone can be saved. Because Paul was a man, previously Saul, who was killing Christians. And then he was saved, and now he's that's insulting to say. He's one of the most influential people of all time.
He is probably the most influential, except for Jesus.
Right.
Obviously.
So that's why I say one of.
Yeah.
But, and so, so many times in this life we see people who are so far gone, or people who seem so lost. It's like there's no way that they can come to know Jesus. Yeah. Or I don't think they want to ever go to church. But anybody can be saved.
That's so
anybody.
True. God, I totally believe that Jesus picked Saul for this specific purpose, allowed him to do these things to show us that God can use someone that is absolutely broken. Mm-hmm. I mean, both of you, everyone is broken, mm-hmm. but Saul was broken. Mm-hmm. He was killing Christians. Then he totally turned around and he wrote over probably 3/4 of the New Testament.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how crazy is that? Went from killing Christians, being just crazy, to one of the most on fire for God disciples.
One of the top Christians of all time.
One of the top Christians of all time, even though that's not even a thing. But yeah, that's very true. Okay, speaking of martyrs, I have a couple facts to talk about in the martyring business. So it's kind of just showing how Christians are persecuted. So in North Korea, it's the number one place for Christian extreme persecution 18 years in a row. So don't go to North Korea is basically what I'm hearing. But there are people that need to go there and share the gospel with them because they're so broken. Afghanistan and Somalia are close second and thirds targeted by Islamic militants, and that's according to the tablet.co.uk, so it's a website. So the summit held by Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un freed 3 Korean American Christians, 2 of them arrested of behavior against the regime, which is absolutely crazy. That just goes to show that the behavior against the regime, they may have not been doing anything, but they got arrested just because they may have been talking bad about Kim Jong-un. And then the third was a pastor who was convicted of being a spy. And so Nigeria and Pakistan are actually the most violent against Christians. So again, those places are very scary, but there are people that need to be there. And it's very I would be scared to go there for sure. And that's according to opendoorsuk.org. And another thing is, so according to a research firm affiliated with Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary in Massachusetts, estimates that 90,000 Christians are martyred every year. From 2005 to 2015, 900,000 have been martyred. They say 30% were killed by terrorism and possibly 70% over tribal conflicts in Africa. So this is a very liberal estimate because a lot of these people may have been Christians, but they were killed over tribal instances. So it's a very, very high estimate. But then according to another website, it says that about 3,000 are actually killed for their faith, and that was as of 2017. But it's considered to be a conservative estimate because of all the undocumented killings that happened. But we may never know, though. So just to prove that point, it's just there are Christians getting killed every day for their faith, and I respect the heck out of that, because in America we don't have to worry about getting killed because there would be an uproar if people started killing Christians. But that will eventually happen, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But anyway, so do you have anything to say about that, Hunter? Because those are very, very crazy.
What a cool thing.
Yeah, seriously.
That their faith is that strong that they literally die for it.
And again, amazing. This isn't necessarily proving a point, but people don't just die for no reason. You know, Christianity has such a significance in this world, and people don't just die because they're they just want to die, you know? So there's definitely something about Jesus that people are just not too sure of, and they're willing to kill people for it. So here's another fun fact. So happiness in Hebrew is simcha, and it means the right action in accordance with God's will. So I was very, very surprised to see that. So I'm going to read off Deuteronomy 28:47-48, and it says, "Because you do not serve the Lord our God joyfully and gladly in the time of prosperity, therefore in hunger and thirst, in nakedness and dire poverty, you will serve the enemies the Lord sends against you. He will put an iron yoke on your neck until he destroyed you." So we need to serve the Lord joyfully and gladly in the times of prosperity, because in times of prosperity we get selfish and we think, well, I can do it on my own. I don't need God. And then in the times of dire state, people seem to come to God, and it's very funny how that works. But when we're consistent and we're always in the Word and we're praying constantly, like the Bible says, the Lord he'll come, and he's always there. He's always has open arms. So I just found that really interesting, that happiness in Hebrew is literally meaning the right action in accordance with God's will. So that's very, very interesting. Anything to say on that, really?
Allow me to circle back to before you started talking about martyrs.
Okay.
We were talking about people who were so far gone.
Yes.
And I just wanted to tell a story before it slips my mind.
Okay.
So I work for the news here. And I was an anchor for the news last Friday. And so my job was to find the stories that I was supposed to report on.
Okay.
And so I was looking for the stories to report on. We have various websites we can go to where we can use their content, including the Associated Press Wire.
Okay.
And so I go on the AP Wire and I look up stuff that's happening in Tennessee, and I find this story. And allow me to tell you, in 1984, Don Johnson was convicted of murdering his wife.
Okay.
And he was said to be a con man, a thief, a liar. I think he sexually abused her.
Oh, sheesh.
About as bad as you can get.
Yeah.
And that was in 1984. And he has been in jail since. He's on death row. He has had several of execution dates passed. And they passed for various reasons. For whatever reason, they don't get executed that day. And he's had several pass. And he had been in jail about 20 years. And finally, the daughter of the woman, his stepdaughter essentially, the daughter of the woman that he killed, decided that she was going to work up the courage to go in there and speak to him for the first time.
Oh, sheesh.
And she said that she went in there with so much hatred and so much spite that she just wanted to lay into him. And she was going to tell him about how terrible he made her life. And she said that she went in there and she could see the love of God in his eyes. And she had never felt more compelled to forgive somebody. And she ends up, instead of laying into him, she forgives him, and she begins going to church regularly and praying after that.
Wow.
And so what happened is Don Johnson was this horrible guy when he got into jail, and he was ministered through some other prisoners or people that came in. And over the past 30 years, he became an elder in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And he is now leading Bible studies in the jail, and he's ministering to other prisoners. Wow. And obviously he ministered to his stepdaughter, whose mom he murdered.
Wow.
And I just think that speaks testament to how powerful God is.
And that's not even anywhere close to as good as Saul.
No.
And that's
just a real life example.
That's a real life example. Wow. That's amazing.
And so now his daughter is pleading clemency, which means like mercy, is pleading clemency for his death sentence, and she's trying to get him off death row. And he killed her mom.
Wow.
So that's the power of Jesus Christ right there.
That is the power of Jesus. Wow. That's Hunter, I've never actually heard that story before.
Pretty
that's
crazy.
Amazing, dude. Holy cow. So I'm gonna talk about Revelation. We don't have enough time to go over some of the secular facts that I had compiled, but we're gonna go over basically the story of Revelation, how the world's kind of gonna end that we know in the Bible. So Revelation in Greek means an unveiling, which means that Jesus will be unveiled in end times. So in Revelation 1:12-17, John had a vision, and this is the synopsis of it. A voice spoke to him, a man in a garment down to foot. His hairs were like white wool and white like snow, and eyes were like fire, and his feet were of fine brass, and his voice sounded like many waters, which basically means it was very angelic, and it was just very fine and pure. That's just amazing to me that God it's like so pure, and his eyes are like fire, and you probably can't even really envision it. I bet he really kind of just had a vivid thing because God is so holy, or Jesus is so holy, what it's talking about. And then the rapture. Everybody knows about the rapture. Probably most people know in the Bible. So in Revelation 4:1 it says, John hears the trumpet from 1 Corinthians 15:52, which I have that pulled up right now. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. That will be very, very cool. Jesus is going to come down, and all the people that are saved currently will, I guess will disappear, and everybody else will kind of be left that didn't accept God. That's a very scary thing, and that's why we as Christians should go out and talk to people and be verbal with our faith. And then the next thing after that is the tribulation in Romans 6:17. The Spirit will step aside, and the Antichrist will rise to power. Lots of weeping will be going on, and lots of people will cry out to the Lord, but it is too late. War, famine, and war, famine, and terror will take place. Demons will come out of the bottomless pit. This will be a terrifying time. And do you know much about the tribulation? Have you read much about that? It's very scary. It's very horrific.
Scary.
I don't want to be there, and I know I'm not going to be there according to the Bible. So that's very cool. So the next thing is the Battle of Armageddon, which is in Revelation 16 and 19. So the Antichrist will gather up all the armies and will seek to destroy the Jews and take God's holy people. So they're going to go to Jerusalem and basically try to decimate it. But then in Revelation 20, God will destroy them before that happens. That is the coolest thing. And he will speak into the abyss, and then he'll send all of Satan and them into, the abyss, which is... people speculate it's the center of the earth. I don't really know, but that will happen for 1,000 years. And then to continue that, Jesus will reign the earth for this time, and after it is up, Satan will try to overthrow God, and he will be cast into the lake of fire. And then after that, every unsaved person will face judgment. So my question is, do people get a second chance according to that? Because after the kind of the first part where people rise up and some people stay here because they didn't accept God. Is that saying that people will get a second chance potentially? I don't know. Like, just off your first thoughts.
Good question. That is where some religions come from, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do not know.
That's a great answer because I don't know either. Only God does.
Yes.
It's a very good answer, Hunter. Because
You got me thinking now.
I don't know. I don't know. I believe that there will be a second chance because God is a God of second chances. He always gives people second chances. But I don't know though. He might not. And then in Revelation 21 I got to slow down. In Revelation 21, 3 through 4, it's a tongue twister for some reason. A new heaven and a new earth will arrive. So heaven and earth, I guess, will collide together and it will become one. But no, this is not meant to, I guess, scare you, but at the same time, hell is a real place, and heaven is also a real place. And I'm very excited to experience heaven. It's a very arcane place, but I don't know. I'm just excited to see kind of what happens because God's perfect and we'll have perfect lives. But can you tell us a little bit about hell or any like thing that you've compiled there?
I don't think anybody can really grasp the concept of how bad hell really is. I think that it is worse than anything you've ever experienced times 1,000.
Yes.
And then times 1,000 after that. I've heard people refer to it as conscious suffering.
Conscious suffering.
Which is a very strong phrase. You're aware that you're suffering and you can't do anything about it.
Anything about it at all.
And I've also heard that you are having no rest, day or night. So if you can imagine yourself the most tired you've ever been, and you cannot rest, you can't go to sleep, you can't chill, ever for eternity.
Say to your bro like in hell, be like, hey bro, you trying to chill? Be like, nah, bro. Like I'm hurting. What do you mean?
For the rest of eternity.
Yeah, for the rest of eternity.
Never. That pain's never gonna go away.
Seriously.
Dude. So hell's. I think it is intended to scare us. You know.
Yeah.
I think it should scare us. It certainly scares me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be there.
Seriously. I guess I've read probably 30 pages of 23 minutes in hell, and you can and anybody can argue that it's just a dream and it's it may have not happened at all, but God tends to come through dreams and reveal to people kind of the reality of heaven and hell, I guess. So basically this guy has a dream and he's sweating bullets. He is literally so hot that night, and he, I guess, supposedly spends 23 minutes in hell, and the way he describes it was he was in a cage and it reeked. Like, it was super, super gross. It was the worst smell you probably ever smelled. It wasn't super, super hot. He said that you could feel that there was heat, but it wasn't like a crazy, crazy burning feeling yet. And he said that demons were walking around, and these things were super, like, disformed. And he said that they were about 13 feet tall, and they were very scaly, reptilian-like creatures, and they beat the crap out of him. Literally just threw him around, beat him. He said he could feel that his ribs got broken, but he couldn't do anything about it. Like, there was nothing, like, he was still going, but his ribs were broken. It's not like on here and on Earth where your ribs break and you're just like, oh my gosh, I gotta move. Like, he could move.
Wow.
And he said that there was, like, the pit was over there, and there was just flames coming out of the pit. And he said the noise that came out of that pit, it was like tons of people were screaming, and they were hopeless. The hopelessness, he said, was unbelievable. The most he's ever felt. Like, there was zero hope there. Like, you're not getting out.
Wow.
And that, I don't know. I definitely cried the first time I read some of this. It's just unbelievable. Like, I would never want anybody to go there. And lots of people think it's just a fake place, but I'm telling you,
yeah, it's
not.
Very real.
It's very, very, very real. But to end this podcast, basically, God has changed my life, and I would not have it any other way.
Same.
And I hope that anybody listening to this makes the same decision, because it is the best decision. I don't care what it is. This is the best decision you'll ever make in your life, because God is so real, and he sent his son to die for you. And I know it just sounds very just whatever, but he died. He took the beating for you, and he took all the sin that you're ever going to do from anybody and took that so you could have heaven.
Yeah.
So anyway, is there any other things you'd like to say before we end this?
Jesus is worth it. That's all I'm going to say.
Absolutely.
Jesus is worth it, and you have to trust in those words. He is worth it.
Oh,
He's worth giving up whatever you think this life may be about.
yes.
He's worth it.
Man, that's good stuff. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. We maybe mumbled a little bit, but Jesus speaks in very, very, very great ways. So we'll see you next week.